I take it you plan to go to most of the schools in the district.
Oh, I plan to visit every school in the district.
And what do you bring into it? What do you have in mind, or do you have any thoughts in mind as you approach taking over here?
We're going to spend some time learning, and we're going to spend some time listening. I think that's critical. Everywhere I've gone, you've got to understand the context. But there's also a fierce urgency of now. We've been very clear, and the commissioner is very loud and clear about things need to change immediately. So I think coupling that with listening and learning is very important. But the kids that I've seen today are waiting on us. So it's time for the adults to act.
You've been doing this work for the last decade or so. You mentioned last time you were here that every place is unique, that you'll be doing listening and learning in the first kind of weeks of your tenure here, but that there are certain things that really cross every educational ecosystem and certain issues that kind of pop up again and again as perennial issues. What are some of those issues, and do you I'm assuming you've been following along.
Yeah, two
prior.
things. Great leadership is great leadership, no matter where you go, and great teaching is great teaching, no matter where you go.
Is there anything that you've seen or heard of so far in Providence or in Rhode Island that seems unusual to you? We always hear that it's a little bit insulated here. The commissioner has pointed out a few things that she says, this is not normal, this only happens in Rhode Island. Anything you've heard of so far where you're like,
Yeah, I'm still listening and learning. It's exciting to be around kids. What I've been able to unpack this morning is we've got a group of students that are just eager for us to pour into them everything that they need to be successful. So part of my role is ensuring that we've got those conditions and supports in place to ensure that all kids are learning at high levels.
Superintendent, can you elucidate, and also the commissioner too, the decision to give the notices to the couple of dozen folk in central office? What's that about? What's the context?
Maximum flexibility. We know that the magic happens in the classroom, and we want to be respectful of teachers, not only teachers, but all employees. And today is my first official day, but moving forward and making the changes I think that perhaps need to be made based on John Hopkins' report and some of the observations, we've got to make sure that we have maximum flexibility. So this was an opportunity to increase flexibility in our long-term plan.
Do you envision, though, a much smaller, leaner central office?
Absolutely.
and how does the central office reorganization or slimming down, how does that affect outcomes for kids?
Well, we hope it positively impact. Our vision is to push resources and decision-making closer to schools. Right now, that's the vision that I have, and I think when you look across the education ecosystem, systems that work, systems that are high-performing, you have the resources closer to the classroom.
So those employees who got the notices may work in schools next school year as opposed to being based in the central office?
So we're not prepared to make that decision. We just wanted the opportunity. If that's the case, we needed to make some contractual decisions and based on the law and just based on respect for employees. So I can't make that decision right now.
What did you think when you read that Johns Hopkins report? Were you horrified, or what did you think upon reading it?
It was unsettling. It was unsettling, to say the least, to know that children are in learning conditions that the Johns Hopkins report described. But it also created a sense of urgency like no other. Like, we don't have a lot of time to sit around and talk. We've got to begin to act now.
Yeah, there are 90 vacancies right now. Any immediate plans to fill those?
So I think we've got to be very aggressive around our recruiting. We've got to look at non-traditional ways of recruiting teachers. It's interesting because when we talked about that a few weeks ago, coming from a large school district that also had vacancies, when we go on the recruiting trails to the Puerto Ricos and to the Buckeye Bonanzas in Ohio, guess what? Miami's there, Tampa's there, LA's there, New York. So it's a nationwide problem, but we have to have a balance of growing our own, but also very aggressive approach to going outside and getting great teachers.
What are some of your priorities for fixing